On this episode of Bootstrappers, we're going to speak with Chris Clothier, partner at REI Nation. We're going to talk to him about how he scaled his business to 11 different markets while maintaining his winning culture. That's next.
Welcome to Bootstrappers, a unique program designed to help make your business better. From property management to remote workers, Bootstrappers is here to help your business succeed. Bootstrappers is a production of Anequim LLC, so let's lace up those business boots and join Bootstrappers with Jeremy and Gwen Aspen.
Welcome to this episode of Bootstrappers. I'm your host, Gwen Aspen, and I'm hosting this from this amazing property management conference. This is the Property Management Mastermind Conference at the Gaylord, Texas Resort. And I'm super excited about this episode. We're talking to Chris Clothier, who is a partner at REI Nation. They run a property management company that is in 11 different markets. So I'm super excited to talk to him. Now, if you're familiar with the show, Bootstrappers talks about topics that are important to real estate and property management entrepreneurs. Bootstrappers is also powered by Anequim. Anequim helps property management companies be more profitable through its various business offerings, virtual assistants, 24-hour call center, and a full back office support. If you're a fan of the show, like, subscribe, tell all your friends, and you can leave us a message in the bio of our Instagram page at Bootstrappers Show or in the description of our YouTube channel. And if you leave a message for us, we have a book giveaway every single week, and at the end of the show, we'll tell you what that book is. So with that, I'd like to introduce my fantastic guest, Chris Clothier. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Very excited.
Oh, so I would love to know more about your business. So tell us about REI Nation and what you do there.
Yeah, REI Nation is a family-owned company started by my father almost 2 decades ago, back in 2003. And it started as a way for him to be able to acquire real estate for himself and then hold it for long term. He wanted to be a long-term real estate investor. What it grew into was other professionals in the Memphis, Tennessee area began to approach my dad and say, "Hey, you're doing really well at acquiring properties, and they seem to be managed well. You're doing a good job with them. Can you help us acquire properties as well? I've got a full-time job." At the beginning, they were FedEx pilots or people that worked full-time jobs at FedEx, the largest employer there in Memphis. And so that's how REI Nation started. It originally was named Memphis Invest, and my dad began to acquire properties and help passive investors get those, buy those properties from him. He helped them build their portfolios. We looked up, and 18 years later, we're now in 11 markets. It's called a full turnkey operation. So we buy, renovate, place a resident into, manage, and then sell those assets to a passive investor that simply wants to build a portfolio. And I think we're, as I checked this morning, we're a little over 6,700 rooftops in 11 different markets today.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today is not just your explosive growth, which is so exciting, but because you have grown based on company values and a culture that really helps you stand out.
Right.
Especially in an industry that's consolidating and, it's hard to get any doors. It's a very competitive market. So can you tell us a little bit about your company's culture?
Yeah, so my father, I have to go there always because he really, at the top, he's the CEO, founder of the company, and he is the one who sets the tone for the rest of the company. But what makes us so unique, of course, myself and my brother followed. I was raised in this entrepreneurial environment, and so I'd already started my own companies. What ended up happening was we merged, for lack of a better way to put it, and my company disappeared, and I began to work with them. But I was brought into an environment of accountability, and where everyone held each other accountable. What that evolved into as we were growing was the team, not us, not a clothier, but the team would actually interview and hire everyone that we would add. And we haven't been perfect through the years. We've let people go, but when the team sits down for an interview, and most people that we hire today go through 3 or 4 interviews with our company before we hire them, which, what we're really doing is we're trying to scare that person away from the accountability. When you have somebody sitting across from me that says, you and I are going to be doing the same job, and if you don't keep up, I'm going to run you out of here. And
So you bring it up in the job interview so that when you're holding people accountable in the job, it's not a surprise.
No, and it's not, and that's the beauty of it. We're not doing it. It's our team that are doing it because they don't want to be held back. They do not want to answer for someone else's lack of energy, lack of drive, lack of love for what we're doing. And it's odd to say that because these are jobs. It's not like we're making a piece of furniture that when you're done, you can look at it and say how beautiful it is. This is, it's hard as being in a management company. It's not always rewarding, but we've managed to surround ourselves with really good people. We take care of them well. We give them a lot of freedom to perform, but we hold them accountable.
So I just want to go back. You said that the accountability is driven by the other employees because they don't want to be held back.
Right.
That was the word you used. So is that because you have a huge vision for the organization and everybody's buying into that vision?
Oh, yeah.
So can you tell us more about what your big, hairy, audacious goal is?
Yeah. So we've exceeded now over $1 billion in asset value that we manage. It took us the first 17 and a half years to get there, and we're looking to add our second billion in the next 4.
Wow.
We went from, 2 markets when we moved into Dallas in 2012. So it took us 10 years to move into our second market. Over the next 8 years, we moved into 9 more. This year, we're looking to move into 6 more.
Oh my gosh.
And that's possibly, as long as everything lines up the way it's supposed to. But so when you put those types of goals in front of people and you tell them that it's not just reaching those numbers that matter, it's how we do it. So, we're not looking to cheat our way there. I guess that's the best way I can say it. Like, it really matters how we get there. We want to be excellent. We hold ourselves to this really high standard, and so we're not willing to discount that in order to get that growth. We want that growth to be because we are, everyone is really pushing and moving in the same direction. And as I told you a second ago, we do seek to really take care of the people that are on our team, reward them. They get to participate in our success, and that's a big deal.
So part of your culture is everybody's going to the same goal. Everyone knows what the goal is, and they know that they're accountable to make it happen.
Right.
And so when they're interviewing these people, they're like, we have to meet our smaller goal because we're doing big things here. And I need you to be part of this so that we can all win in this larger vision.
That's right.
I think that's where a lot of small companies struggle, is that they get so wrapped up in the day-to-day that they lose sight of that larger goal. And what people really need is a larger goal to make it worth getting up and doing the extra effort.
Yes.
At the business. Because it's, like you said before, property management is not easy.
No.
And you have terrible days on occasion.
Yes.
And so looking towards that bigger mission makes people able to get through those tough spots.
100%. 100%.
So how do you do this? Is it through meetings that you are always talking about the big, hairy, audacious goal?
Yeah, it's part of what I'm going to share at the event this weekend. Is part of it's asking better questions. And when I say that, I have no way to be able to give your audience like an example of what I mean. We ask questions in our, whether it's one-to-one meetings with our people or larger meetings, that they're not accustomed to being asked.
Like out in the world, they're not accustomed to being asked.
In our meetings, they're not accustomed to being asked.
Okay.
When you follow KPIs, and so everyone gets used to, here's the 1 number or the 5 numbers or whatever it is that I'm responsible for, and then suddenly you ask them questions of, how did we get there? Let me dig a little deeper into something that you haven't been asked in months, such as how many calls did we receive yesterday from this piece of marketing that we put out to generate new resident applications? And they're like, wait a second, I haven't been asked that in a while. Let me go back and we try and ask questions that people are not accustomed to being asked. What it does for them, then they go and they ask those same questions to their team members or to each other of themselves. what am I not seeing? Because it's not just the KPIs that matter. Going back to, it's not just the result. It is, how are we getting there? What can we do to improve? Even though we might be, a great example is we looked up and we only had 31 houses available. Out of 6,700 properties managed, only 31 were vacant available at that time out of all 11 markets.
Wow.
And you would think that would be, kind of, there's no need to have a meeting today. We only got 31 houses available. Like, we're all good. No, we dug into the number of calls that we were receiving that day, the number of applicants that had been turned down, how many applicants were approved out of these 31, how many of them have what stage are they in getting occupied. We really dug deep into the numbers, and it sets a tone. So it sets a tone for everybody that there's one thing we're all going for. It's not excellence, it's perfection.
Perfection.
When there are no properties available, that's the day we can sit back and say, what's next?
Well, then you ask yourself, well, are we asking enough in rent?
Yeah, exactly. Wait, and that's a great point you bring up. I mean, it's how did we get here? It used to be you didn't want any properties vacant longer than, whatever, we'll call it 50 days. But then it was 40 days, then 30, then 20, and then why would a property be vacant longer than 10 days if we can generate calls on it? Let's figure this out. And then you look up and say, well, am I too low? Is that number should be higher? And the point is that when people are, it's a process we call inspect what you expect. And when you are constantly asking them questions that they're not prepared to answer because they haven't been asked in a while, it's not top of mind, suddenly you look up and our most seasoned team members, our real leaders, you ask them a question and they know. They're already digging into those details that you asked them about for 3 straight years until they finally realize that I have to know not just what the numbers are, but how we are operating, how we're getting there. And that's where the real magic happens with all the team members. They know they don't want to be held back because they know I'm constantly asking questions and trying to improve to reach perfection.
So curiosity is just part of your culture.
Right.
It's from the top to the bottom.
Right.
So be curious about the numbers, be curious about how things are happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you one other thing that they ask when somebody comes in, they ask, at your last job, how many days off did you take? Did you ever call in sick? Is this something that you have allergy seasons, you're going to take a couple of weeks off? That they ask these questions.
Because they know that they're going to be pulling their weight if they're out.
Yeah, so what we tell our team is that we want you to take vacation. We want you to take your time off. If you're sick, of course, you stay home. If you're habitually sick,
right,
this may not be the right environment because here it's fast-paced and it's moving. As far as vacations go, do your job. And when you go, you leave this behind. Don't leave us a bunch of issues. Don't leave us a bunch of problems, but go. Take your time off because when you're here, we want you all in, all engaged, pulling towards the next billion or the next billion after that or whatever it ends up looking like. That's what we're shooting for.
Another thing that I've noticed about your company culture is that you take pride in your customer service.
Absolutely.
On your website, you say that you call each owner once a month.
Right.
So can you tell us more? I think that that's a great customer service experience. Tell us more about what that looks like in the real world.
Sure. Well, the number one impediment to a remote owner, somebody far away, getting involved is fear, and their fear of communication, their fear of, I don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. We hear it constantly from our own owners who are saying, please go into North Carolina. Please start managing my properties in any random state. Anybody that's listening out of Carolina, that was not a... So, we hear it all the time, that the complaint, the impediment, the reason why people don't grow their portfolios is that it's a fear of not knowing. And so we sought to answer that. We sought to create an environment where the owners would be well-informed and also sleep well. So we don't always have every answer they need right then on the phone. But our team, I will get back to you within 24 or 48 hours and have the answer you're looking for. And then follow through. That's a big deal. And that's the one we'll just call it the differentiator. It's one thing that so few operators are willing to do because that person now is not a revenue generator. That's not a property manager that's handling rooftops. That is someone who is only an expense to your company, calling clients and just saying, hey, I'm here. You can rest easy, I'm here. But what we've gained, and what I think any management company that implements something like that would gain is confidence from those investors to continue to rely on your company to build their portfolio.
The other thing that I think is brilliant about that is that people will wait for their questions for the phone call.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So you minimize those emails that also burn out your property management staff.
Of course.
So they're not coming back to their desk and seeing 200 emails after being out in the field all day, because they are taken care of at that one meeting.
Right.
And then the owner knows to write them down in basically a parking lot format and have them presented at the meeting.
Well,
it's great customer service, and they can manage their time better.
And even those that prefer email all the time as a client, they still have a dedicated team member that is not in the field. That they can email at 8 a.m. and have a response at 8:30, or have a response back that I'm getting you the answer, I'll be back shortly, whatever it ends up being. It relieves the rest of the team to do what they need to do, because we've got the customer over here. We've got the service side.
So it's a role that you have that's like the customer communication
100%.
person. Okay.
100%.
And so then that also drives that concierge service that sets you apart from maybe some of the lower end or very inexpensive property management companies.
Yeah, I think I've discussed this so many times in different venues in different ways that it's hard to do what we're talking about doing. It requires revenue. You have to figure out how to generate, the dollars coming in. And so, because each of these it's expensive to implement something like this, but it pays off. It has a payoff if you're willing to commit that time to it. But where it really pays off is the experience that investor has.
Absolutely. And then they're telling their friends about you. And I think in this age of social media, taking care of your current customers and clients is so important.
Yeah.
That's the best. That's the best advertising you could get, is if somebody is your raving fan. And so it sounds like you're providing this excellent experience for them that they'll never forget, and that they'll tell all their friends and family about.
And you know what else it does? It really, because we're not perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
Correct. And that's what we're striving for in every part of the business, is perfection, because you'll never get there. If that's your goal, then you're going to keep striving. You're going to keep working. Well, it really dampens the stress on the owner when things aren't perfect, or when you actually make a mistake. Because there's things that happen in management, and then there's mistakes that you make. Mm-hmm. And for an owner to know that we built a relationship over time. Like, you do care about me.
You built up this goodwill.
Yeah.
That when a problem happens, we've had a lot of places there are maintenance delays. That we have no control over because of
course,
things being just for a number of reasons. Everyone in property management knows that when those things go wrong, you've built up all this goodwill, this strong relationship that can weather that storm.
Right.
So that's awesome. I want to parlay that to the customer service experience with tenants. Mm-hmm. So during the pandemic, you guys went above and beyond for your tenants. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did?
Can I say something real
Yes.
quick? Because I use, again, different verbiage. And it's going to be, again, a part of my talk here at the conference. We changed the word from tenant to resident. And we did it company-wide. In every sign in our office, every piece of paperwork we use, we ingrained it within our team to replace the word tenant with resident. When you're talking about service, that little shift already it really changes the way our team approaches the resident in our home. With the requests that they have, with the needs that they have, with the way we provide service to them. And it worked. It was, you would think that this is just a word and maybe it doesn't matter. My talk tomorrow is words do matter.
Oh, I think I couldn't agree more about where you're going with this. And also the way that you talk about the residents.
Yes.
So the team is getting cues from the owner of the company or the partners at the top, and they're learning whether they treat these residents with respect or if they're just, someone sitting in a house and we care only about the owners.
Right.
And so what I'm hearing you say is that you've elevated the language and then thereby elevated the experience of the residents.
Yeah, and let me tell you one thing about their experience, okay? Just to kind of really, for everybody watching and listening to really understand that we survey all of our owners and all of our residents after every closing. So now a resident has done a rental closing, and we survey them to ask them on every different level, everyone that they interacted with, every stage, what's their perception? What can we do better is really what we're asking. And anything that is below a 9 or a 10, we call the resident. So they can give us an 8, and we're going to call them and say, what could we have done better? But that's just, and most of the time they're like, well, what do you mean? It was great. If I had to rate my last one, it would have been a 2. So what are y'all calling me for? It's very interesting to hear their reactions to us. But we have, when a resident sends us a survey and they say that the closing did not go smoothly, they didn't return my call in a prompt manner, I moved into the home and anything.
Something wasn't clean.
This wasn't clean. There were bugs over here. This lock doesn't work. That electric outlet is out. So we get that survey. Within 24 hours, we're at that home. Every single time we bring flowers for the lady of the home. We bring cookies there and we're there saying, show us what is wrong. We're here to fix it. And then we call back behind and say, did we handle that to your satisfaction? What it's won us in return is people saying this doesn't happen. This does not happen in this industry. Nobody cares about what I said. We have people say that I just wrote that down so that you don't charge me and keep my deposit on the back end for a broken outlet. I didn't think you were actually going to come fix it, much less bring me flowers or cookies, and much less within 24 hours of me saying this.
But that's such a difference because people will say, that's too expensive. I could never do that. Flowers are expensive. But what's more expensive?
A vacancy.
A vacancy. No, someone moving in and having a bad move-in experience, because then it's the pile-on effect.
Oh, yes.
They call every day of the week over every little thing, everything that even is fine, it's not even a problem, becomes a problem because they hate you. So I feel like you perfecting the resident onboarding experience probably saves you so much time and money, and the burnout factor. Like, those interactions are super stressful. Right. If the resident already doesn't like the company. Well, let me tell you. And you're fixing all that by just doing it right on the front end.
Right on the front end. And the first time we had a bad survey, so we read every survey with our leadership team at our 1:00 meeting. Again, somebody listening may say, God, I don't have time to do that. Are you kidding me? I can't bring them together every day at 1:00 to read surveys. It's a bigger meeting, but we read every survey. The first time a bad survey came through, of course, my dad, he sets the tone, and he about lost it on everyone at the table. And he made the person leave. Leave the meeting now. Go get flowers and cookies now. Go get the manager of that particular renovation. Get them now. Pull them off the road and get to that house now. That was a couple of years ago. Today, when we have a bad survey come in, the leadership team says, already handled. We were there this morning. This is what we did. We brought the cookies. We brought the flowers. We had the meeting with the resident. They're good to go. Everything's fit. So it went from us holding them accountable, back to what we were talking about earlier, and inspecting what we expect, the way we expect everyone around the room to treat that survey, that's now filtered all the way down through the team, where if a survey comes in, it's a quick phone call and the whole team is in action to get that fixed. And so recently we had a survey that we considered bad, and the lady told us that I have 2 family members and a friend that rent from you, and all of them rave about you, and everything has been great except for these little issues that I think are minor, but now I understand why everyone raves about you, because of how quickly y'all went to fix this.
So here's the other thing I love about what you do. So your father set this high expectation. If things aren't perfect, we're going to fix it. Everybody knows what the expectation is. Now, do you get C players on a team of A players? I mean, they can't last very long.
They sneak in. They sneak in.
They sneak in.
And you're right. They do not last very long. It's
A players don't want to work with C players.
No.
And when you expect A quality work, you have fewer problems. And when someone doesn't fit it's obvious right away.
Yes, and they recognize it. No one on the team frets about a new opening. We're down a person. Nobody, because everybody's like, not a problem. We can pick up whatever slack we have to pick up, and I would rather than be surrounded by somebody that is not driven by the values that we bring to the table. That what makes us tick every day. So.
And when the expectations are clear, they also trust you.
Yes.
So even when you don't, maybe you make a change and you can't tell everybody exactly what's going on right away, they know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Do you sense that as well?
Yes, they will allow us. We recently hired a VP of marketing. A young lady came from Hilton, and she'd been with us since January. And it's very, very interesting. She sat us down, early April, and she said, she tells us, I'm talking to my husband, and he's asking me, like, why do I always have this smile on my face, like when I'm getting ready to go to work, he's like, you truly love what you're doing now? And she's like, yeah, I do. And she's like, and I figured out why. It's like, these guys literally believe that they can do anything that they set out. And she's like, it's not fake. It's not let's just throw it up there. She's like, no, when they settle in on they're going to do something, they are going to do it. And everybody in the company believes that. And so when we come out and say we're going to do this or do that, whatever it ends up being, everyone just says, show us the plan. Let's go, because it's going to occur. And
I love that.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about scaling. So you have scaled to 11 different markets.
Right.
And you said earlier before the show, it's not through acquisition.
Right.
So how are you picking the people to begin these new markets? Do they come to Memphis and train? How does that process work? It's
a mix. So again, we have a fantastic team of leaders that they understand whatever is asked of and called upon that we do. So we had a team this week that was in Florida for 3 days, reviewing a couple of markets, laying the groundwork for how we're going to enter into those markets. While they were there, we have a gentleman who is the head of our vendor acquisitions. And so for all markets, all he's doing constantly is interviewing, acquiring, and preparing new vendors to build out our vendor teams.
Interesting.
Even in the markets,
so it's like a real process.
Yeah, even in the markets that we're in today, they are always building out those vendor teams. And so,
can I ask you a quick question on that?
Sure.
Do you hold them accountable to KPIs too, the vendors that you use?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Yeah, and so entering into a market is the most difficult time because if they don't want to be held to a KPI, they're just going to walk. That's okay. But once you build a team and they begin to trust you, that if I say we're going to do 5 jobs a month, we're going to buy and renovate 5 homes a month, so you are going to be kept busy with us, and you demonstrate that that's true, then they will, it's easier to hold them to, that accountability. You have to kind of earn their trust. But let me tell you the amazing thing. Much of our footprint is close to one another. It's not a massive footprint between those 11 cities. We've got a lot of vendors that maybe started in Memphis, or maybe they started in Dallas, that today they have operations in 4, 5, 6 different cities that we're in.
So they grew with you.
They 100% said, if you're going, we're going. You're risking, we're risking, and we'll do this together.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it's
like a ripple effect.
Oh, 100%.
Your culture supersedes just your business, and other people want to be part of it.
Yes. And then what ultimately ends up happening is we have team members that they want to, they may be young, they may be starting their family, maybe we're going to a market that they're from or near from there. So we have a lot of team members that actually relocate to help start markets for us.
I love that.
And then they're responsible for hiring the team around them. Our leadership will travel in and help them get other team members hired and trained up to our standards. Meanwhile, there's somebody back, at the home office that is interviewing and setting up vendors for them. So it's a very, we have a process for it.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, and
it sounds like you guys are very process oriented.
Yeah, and we've been looking to improve upon that, but it's, as I said earlier, it just comes with belief. There's just, if you don't believe you can do it, you're the wrong person, for us, for whatever we're looking to do. So if we lay something out, like we're going to go to a new city and you believe, then let's go. We're going to hold you accountable, but if you believe in everything you've learned so far, you're going to be successful.
I love that.
Yeah.
So now no one's perfect. So I'm sure you've made a boneheaded move, maybe?
Oh, or two.
Could you share with us one of your business boneheaded moves?
Yeah. Can it be investing related?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is an easy one for me. That when I began investing in real estate, I had an idea of the portfolio I was going to build. And I started with lower priced assets, which that was perfectly fine. But I wanted to own 15 of them. And it was a specific number for me. I was looking for a particular performance out of those properties. And I knew what they were all going to go to, from my, giving properties to my kids, funding my part of my retirement, whatever it ended up being. I had a very specific, well thought out plan. And I was following it very well. But I really began to think that I knew what I was doing and that I was very natural at it, and began to not pay attention, I guess, as much to the details of everything I was doing. And I looked up and found myself in this belief that I was a great real estate investor and I could do no wrong. I had 57 houses that I owned rather than 15.
Wow.
So almost, three times larger than the portfolio I wanted. I had bought so many bad properties, made so many poor investments, but I was they talk about sitting at a poker table, and if you don't know who the pigeon is, you need to get up. I was the guy that somebody would call and, smooth talk me, convince me, you're the smartest investor I know. You're so good at this. These 3 properties are perfect for you. And I was like, oh, I appreciate that. And they do look good. I'll take them. I had 57 houses. At the time, I was running my own business, which was different. It was outside of real estate. Real estate was what I was doing for my passive investments. And I didn't have time for my own business. I was getting 200 to 250 pieces of mail a week that I would have to process and figure out, paying all those notes, paying all the insurance, everything. I was miserable, upset. And then 2007, 2008 occurs. Because of the particular price point I was in, I was taking massive losses on vacancies and maintenance.
Gosh.
And so I had to really sit down and kind of take stock of the decisions I was making and how I was doing it. And the advice I give people today is create the plan that you want, that gets you where you want to go. Surround yourself with whomever you need to give you advice, but ultimately you make your plan and then you stick to it. Don't let myself, and I have a lot of clients where I help them build their portfolios. Don't let my team, not even REI Nation, can call you and say, hey, you should buy another property. No. You have your portfolio that you set out to build, that you have the reasoning behind and the knowledge of why you're doing it. And then don't let anyone derail you into, with any form of flattery or anything else, into building something that's not what you set out to do.
I love that. So It's like, know yourself, listen to yourself, and don't be persuaded by smooth talkers.
No, not at all. It is your portfolio. Ultimately, it's your responsibility. And if if you're patient and you do things, I'm going to say the right way, but that's so not even definable. But you do things that are right for you patiently, you can reach whatever goal you have for building a portfolio. It's very easy to get derailed by other people, and that's my
I love that.
biggest bonehead move I ever made.
So you've written a book.
I have.
Tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, I've actually I tell you, I've written 2. One has not been published yet. When's
it going to be published,
It's going to be published in the fall, and it's not business.
Oh.
This is I wrote a business book, which is what you're of course asking about, and it was called The Turnkey Revolution. And it is based on those first 15 years in the business, my family and what we did and how we did it. The purpose of the book is to help passive investors find and pick a great company to work with and avoid the biggest mistake that I made.
Oh,
that's the whole point of the book.
You're giving back with your biggest boneheaded move too.
Absolutely.
Make sure other people don't make the same mistake.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that is our book giveaway. So after this show, if you like what you hear, please leave us some feedback in either the description of our YouTube channel or at the Bootstrappers Show on Instagram. Leave us a message in the bio, and you could win Chris Clothier's book, The Turnkey Revolution. So thank you so much for being here today.
Of course.
We really appreciate it.
This is fun. I really I appreciate all the time you put into this and what you're doing. This is a fantastic show, so I love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Well, that's a wrap. We'll see you next week on Bootstrappers.
This has been Bootstrappers, a unique presentation designed to help you better understand how the world turns. Contact Gwen or Jeremy at hosts@bootstrappers.club or visit our website, Anequim.net. Be sure to subscribe to our podcasts on Apple, Google Play, Spotify, and our YouTube channel. Thank you, and join us next time for Bootstrappers.